I just pasted in the file you should be curling down. If you use Oh My Zish, just type in CU, press up, and you should be right back to it. The file should be called somejavascript.md, and then you're going to rename it to exercise.js. Awesome, awesome. We're going to go back in there, and I've kept my spot. If you haven't, remember the commands we have executed thus far were set scroll offset equals 8. You can choose whatever number makes you kind of feel comfortable. That's just how many lines, either below or above, it will start auto-scrolling for you as you get near the bottom or the top. Then we also did set number. I don't know why it's not auto-completing. That puts the absolute positioned line numbers on the side of your editor. And then we also did rnew, or relative number. We did all of them, right? Relative number. And that means that from your cursor, we're going to display the relative offset to help you with faster and more awesome Vim motions, right? And so now we're going to start getting after it. And I can't quite remember what comes up next, so we're going to just kind of look at it together. And I think everyone's going to have a great time, huh? So anyways, so we've done this, but here's the problem, right? We did all these settings. Everything is awesome. Everybody just quit with me for 1 second. Quit, bang, get out of there, and then just simply reopen it back up. You can either recurl it back down or just simply open up exercise.js. Do that, and what's the problem? Everything that we have put in gets forgotten, right? And that is because Vim does not save your settings. You tell Vim what to do. It does not tell you what to do, well, some of the times. So anyway, so let's close this back down. Now, for those that are using Vim, you will be opening up something called your vimrc, and that will be located in your home directory. I just can do .vimrc. If you're using NeoVim, remember it's in your config path. I showed you how to do it earlier. I'll do it again really quickly right now. You echo out std path config, and that will show you where you have your init.vim. All right. So I'm going to go here, and I am going to edit my init.vim, which is at config neovim initvim. You edit yours. So everyone should have an empty one. If you've properly set up your environment to have a clean environment, it should be empty, and this should be really a new file. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. Set scroll off equals 8, and then I'll try to slow down there. Remember, you can copy, you can paste. So you can do your YY, your P, to get that previous line. Do that. Now we can go over here, and we can set the other options. So let's dword I number. Then you can hit escape. You can go over one with L, and dword, dword. You could have done XX. You could have done some other things. There's some other more faster and efficient ways to do that. But for now, I'm just kind of giving you the basics. So let's do it again. Let's YY. Let's P. Well, don't P, but then press word over, press I, and then type in relative. Now you'll notice you have these three options in your vimrc. Now remember, your vimrc is simply the identical thing to your command mode. It reads one line at a time and applies the settings you have set into your Vim experience. So if I were to save this, it will now say, hey, you wrote it. It wrote it to this location, which means I can now quit. And at this point, I can reopen up that curled file. Here, I'll just curl it back down again, and look what we have. Our setting has been saved. As I move around, it moves it with me. I no longer have to retype in all those settings. So this is really incredible, right? Because now this is the very beginnings. You know that there's a vimrc. You know it's something as simple as just whatever commands I type into my command, I can also put into my vimrc, and it'll be automatically executed for me. And that's at the beginning of every Vim startup. So, this is just the beginnings. Hopefully the vimrc doesn't feel that crazy right now. Hopefully it feels actually pretty normal. You're like, okay, I see it. I can set some stuff. It just gets sourced for me at some point. It's kind of like a bash RC, right? You don't really control when you do a bash RC. At some point in the init process, it does it for you, and then you get to have all your shortcuts or whatever, right? So we're going to keep on going. One thing that I really dislike is how Vim looked at that moment, right? Because it just looks ugly. I don't like 8 spaces. I don't like tabs. I want 4 spaces, right? That's what I want. And so if I apply all these settings, I will get what I want. And since you kind of have to look these up and find all the name of the settings, I just kind of provided them here for you. But if you want to know what they mean, you can always use the help menu. So let's look at the term set expand tab. What in the world does that mean? So I can go help, expand, and I can hit tab, and it'll show me a bunch of different things that have expand in it. And I'm like, none of these are really the one I want. So I can exit out of there and retry expand tab. And when I hit enter, it'll take me to there. And you'll see that in insert mode, use the appropriate number of spaces to insert a tab. Spaces are also used when you use the left and right shifting of stuff. Right? You're like, oh, okay. So expand tab simply converts a tab character into spaces. All right, I now know what that setting means, right? Now when you see set expand tab, you know what it means, and it just doesn't seem like some magic setting that eventually makes all your system work correctly. So you can do that with everything. Everything inside, all of your set options, you can just do help, that set option, and you will get the editor's definition. If that's not good enough, or if it's written in kind of a goofy way, because sometimes I read help options and I don't really understand what they're trying to tell me, you can always Google it, and someone will take a different stab at trying to make it sound better, because sometimes they'll use terms that are like editor-isms, right? You have to understand the nomenclature of the editor to be able to understand what you're reading, and that comes with time and experience, but for the most part, they're fairly comprehensible. So I'm going to take all these options that I have right here, and I will copy them. I'll put them over here in the chat just to make it easy. Is there an online resources that list those settings? I'll get there in just 1 second. All right. So I pasted them all in the chat, and let's see, go back and go here. And so I'm going to quit this file again, and I'm going to go back to my vimrc. I'm just going to simply press up on my shell, get my previous command history, jump back in here, press Control-O, one line below, and then I'm going to just Control-Shift-V for me. So capital V if you're on a terminal, usually that's how you have to paste in. And so there you go. Now I have all those settings. And when I save this, it will now write it. And when I reopen up Vim, all my weird indenting woes will be gone. As you can see, as I go down, this looks better. This looks more normal. This probably looks like what most people are used to seeing when they see JavaScript, barring these bizarre bright blue, the cyan, yellow, and light purple. Like, besides those colors, everything else looks pretty much how you would expect it to look. And so let's save it. Let's go back. We have it. Awesome. This is kind of starting to feel better. Quick recap, though. I know I mentioned this right before we went down. We were combining motions and all that. So in case you forgot, I'll do it really quickly, or in case it feels a little disjointed since the last time. Let's just jump back up here. I can walk back up there, or I could do it the new way we've discovered. I can type in a number, 9K. I now have jumped up to the top. I can do Shift-V and do 6J, and I can do D. Totally works. I can do D6J, right? We can combine these things together to make them work. Also, fun little fact, I can do Y6J, and then now I can paste them all I want. Look at all of that pasting I just got done doing, right? Because I can now yank over a range. How cool is that? Let me undo by pressing U, all of that. And so you can see that we can take all these motions and combine them. And here's the deal, is that right now, that probably feels a little weird to do. I totally get that. But the more you use these motions, the faster and faster you'll get. And there's also some pretty cool plugins. Specifically for NeoVim, it's actually just like a core feature. You can highlight on yank, meaning it will flash the region you yank. So you can go, oh, okay, I yanked that region. It actually helps you kind of comprehend your yanking. Instead of going into visual mode first, highlighting what you want, and then yanking, you can get used to using yank motions instead of visual motions, then yanking. It's pretty cool. All right, so let's exit out of there. Let's go back here. Let's look at this. So a couple things before we move on is you can always Google any options. Like if you have problems with, say, your cursor going into a thin cursor versus a thick cursor, you can simply go and you could probably Google like, hey, Vim options cursor, and you'll probably get something. You can also go into Vim and type in help options. Now this, eventually, as you scroll down, will literally have every single option that is available all the way down, and it just keeps on going, and eventually somewhere deep down, look at that, you can just see these things flying by. I just saw something that said bomb. That actually said, there you go. I didn't even realize that there was, I don't even know what this means, but I'm sure as you see it, you'll see it. A boolean, it's default off, right? You can go through and look at all these different things that actually exist within Vim and every last one of them. Now, honestly, this is pretty difficult because there is a ton of options. If I go all the way down to the bottom and say set number, There's 7,000 lines in this help document. I doubt you're going to read this Stephen King novel. It'll be gripping, but in the end, that's just way too much context to hold in your head. That's why, honestly, whenever I'm doing option setting or knowing what's available, I usually either jump in here, do a quick file search to see if I can find it. If not, I just jump on Google, try to see hey, is there some sort of option I'm missing? It's very, very hard to have all these in your head, and honestly, I forget them all the time. Completely normal, right? It happens to everybody. Another cool thing is that I've showed you this a few times. You can tab complete options, but there's also another available option. So if I go like this, help, expand tab, remember how we couldn't quite get it? If you press Control D, it'll actually show you a pop-up menu. And so you can see everything that's available. So you can actually look through those one at a time. And you see that the fourth option down right here, sorry, I'm bad at using a mouse, says expand tab. So I can actually see that. And then I can go, OK, expand, expand tab. And you can see, all right, I have all of these options right here. And so when I press tab, I get the pop-up menu. When I press Control D, I get the kind of the full, this is what we have auto-completed. It's kind of a nice way to look at it. And a fun fact, when you're inside of the tab menu, you can use Control N to go forward or Control P to go backwards. You can also use tab, but I got used to using Control P and N because a lot of plugins also use Control P and N to navigate these pop-up menus, especially a lot of the autocompletes, the LSPs, COC, Conquer of Completion. They all use very similar pop-up menus, and they all require Control P, Control N. You can use tab, but ultimately, I just like to stick within kind of a pretty defined bounds. It just operates Vim the same no matter what. And so I like kind of learning some of the isms, and that's one of them I have gotten used to using. Though it was a little bit